Thank you for tuning in to the best parenting show on the internet, Post Daily Dose.
Hey, good evening, Facebook family, and welcome to another episode of Post Daily Dose on the road with me, your trusted parenting advisor, faithful guidance servant on the healing journey. What's my name? Big Papa Brian Post. Hope everyone is having a tremendous Tuesday. We are en route. I didn't plan very well, so just passed through Napa County. Napa, home of all the great wineries and vineyards, and guess what? I had not one drop of in Vino Veritas. No vino, baby, no vino. I need some vino. Lots of vineyards, but had no wine. But it looks like I've got a signal, so I hope you guys are doing great. We are now on our way to Chico. Hello, Mimi, there you are. Hello there, Leslie.
North towards Reading.
So, the topic of tonight's dose is how high is your child? Now, that's going to get all kinds of views because people are like, what is he talking about? But I'm not talking about how high is your child, like puff, puff, pass. I'm talking about how high is your child vibrating. I just had a very interesting session with a family. It just kind of clicked in. I talked about this a few months ago. And it is the child who, because of their early experiences, their brainstem is wired differently. So they have this very high energy. They vibe at a very high level. It's very frenetic, and it can be really overwhelming. And for families, it's almost like they're constantly seeking adrenaline opportunities. So they engage in a lot of high-risk behaviors, stealing, running away, sneaking out, breaking into stuff, drugs. The proclivity towards high-risk behavior is really high. And then I just realized as I was sitting with this very sweet, very connected set of parents, that almost consistently over the course of my career when I've encountered these children, and they are definitely what's the word Malcolm Gladwell uses? They are an outlier. So occasionally I don't run across makeup of child very often, and usually it has some really early trauma. Usually there is some fetal alcohol exposure, drug exposure, and it's just something it does to their brain. But the proclivity towards high-risk behavior is very high. And I realized, as I was talking about this a couple months ago, that the parents almost across the board are usually really calm and really loving and really supportive and work really hard to try to, meet these children's needs, but consistently come up short. And as I was sitting there today, I was like, oh, there it is. This is that thing. That thing is that these children, because of their early in utero experiences, their brain stems are actually wired differently. They don't receive soothing the same way other children do. The capacity for soothing with them is so deep within the inner recesses of their brain that it's so hard to reach, because the way they are the most soothed is through adrenaline. So they become literally adrenaline junkies. And the reason that most parents are not successful with these kids is because parents are too calm. The same parents to these children have a difficult time with any kind of high-risk behavior. I've seen this consistently. I had a kid, 15 years ago. His name was Cameron. Cameron was a live wire. He's probably, at that point in time, I had not seen many live wires like him, where with peers he would just regress to a 2-year-old, and he just could not be around a peer group without, it was so hard to reach. One-on-one, it was he was workable. But I realized, but his parents were the same way. They were mostly connected, tried to be supportive. There was some rigidity, emotional rigidity. But I just realized today it's because we don't connect with these children because we don't vibe at the same level that. So there's an emotional disconnect. And what happens when you don't vibe at the same level that your child vibes, the emotional disconnect creates a nonverbal communication of emotion. The nonverbal communication of emotional signals stress. It actually turns on your stress receptors. And stress is rooted in fear. So then what happens is the interaction between the parents and the children actually becomes mired in stress and fear and anxiety. And so your child who vibes at this really high level and you work so hard to connect with them, you keep missing the connection because you don't vibe at the same level. So what do you have to do? You have to, number one, help them understand that the way they vibe is not wrong, because I believe that for these children, the vibe that they're at is actually a level close to genius, if not flat out genius. So when you can help manifest, when you can help, what's the word? Direct. That's not the word I'm using.
Induce drive.
That's not the word I'm using. Direct is not the word. But when you can, it's right on the tip of my tongue. Not harvest. When you can direct that energy, I believe these children are exceptional. But so understand this about themselves. But then you as the parents, you have to raise your vibration. So how do you raise your vibration? Think about something you can. So those of you I'm speaking to, think about an activity you can engage in with your child that's high risk and legal. What's a high-risk legal activity you could engage with your child? Because in that state, that's where you're going to connect. That's where you're going to find the connection you've been longing for. So like with the parents I just left, we decided dirt bikes. The child used to like BMX dirt bikes, but now an actual dirt bike, a motorcycle dirt bike, going and riding dirt bikes. It's high risk, it's loud, it vibrates at a whole nother level. There's going to be a connection that's going to happen there. Bungee jumping. You don't have to bungee jump. Take your child bungee jumping. I want to create a program that speaks to these children and to these families, because I feel like I get these families from time to time. I just had one a few months ago that we weren't able. I knew we couldn't meet the need because I knew that how we have been working and operating and what we have available to us could not meet this child and help that family get to where they ultimately are trying to go. So we weren't able to work with them. But I think that for you families who have not been vibing with your children and nothing has seemed to work, I think you got to engage in some high-risk legal activities with them, and that's where you're going to have a breakthrough. 20 years ago, I had a mom say to me, I just want to take my child and I just want to take him to some place where all he has to do is surf every single day. That was her thought, and I thought, you know what, that's a really cool statement, and that shows a lot of commitment by a mom. Obviously, that's not viable for all of us, but it's that level of thinking. Where do you meet your child at? Where can you engage your child at? Maybe it's in music. Maybe it's in going fast in cars. Maybe it's in dirt bikes. Maybe it's in go-karts. Maybe it's bungee jumping. Maybe it's skydiving. Maybe it's swimming with sharks. Maybe it's going to a football game or a baseball game or a basketball game. Although there's none of those going on right now. But you know what I'm saying. That's where you're going to find the connection. That's where you're going to find the oxytocin. That's where you're going to find a breakthrough. So I'll be talking more. Deanne says, how can you condone these sorts of activities when the child is operating at 6 or 7? They are unsafe and normal activities. You do them with them. You do them with them. You find the activities that you can do with your child, because that's just where they're at. This child actually, since you mentioned they're operating at 6 or 7, this particular child is actually regresses to an infant, because that's where the trauma and the neglect is at. So it's not about condoning, it's about joining them. See, condoning speaks to you giving them permission, you telling them it's okay, but you not feeling okay with it. You're not condoning, you're joining. There's a big difference. You're not condoning, you're joining. You're finding the place where you can join your child and connect, make that connection, because there's going to be a breakthrough in that point. So I'll talk about that more. Hope that's helpful. Praise the good Lord. We have been uninterrupted, and we're just driving out through God's land. Let's just show you guys a little California. This is not wine country, but kind of wine country. And there's Brad, and he's not looking at the road. He's looking and seeing what you guys are seeing, although he's been looking at it all day long. All right, guys. Remember, in any given situation, we always have two choices. We can continue to react from the same blueprints of stress, fear, and overwhelm, or we can stop. We can slow